Jason Kenny was first elected to the House of Commons in 1997, just after his 29th birthday, and has been re-elected 5 times, most recently with 70% of vote. Mr. Jason Kenny is appointed the Ministry of Citizenship, Immigration, and Multiculturalism on May 18, 2011, and also given the added responsibility as chair of the Cabinet Committee on Operations. Mr. Jason Kenny is best known for his work with Canada's immigrant communities. Just recently, he has won the McLean's 5th Annual Parliamentary the Year Awards of Canada's hardest working MP. Without much ado, I'd like to introduce the presenting your guest, the Honorable Minister Jason Kenny.
Thank you, Ben.
I'd like to also introduce the moderator for this meeting is Madame Madeleine Gignac, Chair of the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, National Vice President of MeTV. She had received numerous awards, and the highest award she got was the Honor of Ontario and Order of Canada. Madeleine, please.
On behalf of the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, I'd like to welcome all of you, and also to welcome Mark Adler, Member of Parliament for York Centre. And I'd like to say that it's a wonderful opportunity for both the Minister and the Member of Parliament to really see the vibrance of the ethnic media and to really see how we have evolved throughout many, many years in Canada. So we certainly think that we are growing to be the third element in Canada as a voice for ethnocultural communities and for the many important individuals who continue to bring leadership and wisdom to Canada. So I'd like to welcome you and certainly have an opportunity to exchange questions and ideas. So, Minister,
Thanks,
I'd like to...
Maybe I'll say a few words and then take your questions most importantly. Thanks to my colleague Mark Adler for being here, one of the new Toronto MPs, working very hard in York Centre. Thank you, Madeleine, thank you, Dat, for your welcome and for the good work that you continue to do through CIMA. I think we can see that it's not, Canadian ethnic media is not just a third force, it is a primary force in Canadian media now, more clearly than ever now that a former co-worker of yours, Angela Perchaluk, is now the Director of Communications in the Prime Minister's office. And I mean, the fact that we now have several staff in the Prime Minister's office dedicated to working with ethnic media, the fact that we've substantially increased our ethnic media monitoring and budgets so that ministers like myself, well, frankly, I have to be honest with you. Please don't pass this on to my friends at the Toronto Star, but I don't read the Star. I rarely get around to the Globe. I don't watch TV news. I don't have time. Every morning, the first and often the only media scan that I go through is the government's and my ministry's ethnic media scan, where I'm looking at what you are saying in your papers, on your radio stations, on your TV programs. That's partly because it's my job to keep an eye on all of that and to make my cabinet colleagues and government colleagues aware of what's happening off the radar screen of the so-called mainstream media, and also to translate many of the issues that you raise into policy. So this really is, I mean, we're just seeing how much more influential outlets like yours are. Many of you I know started as small outlets with very little resources, often in the basement of the home or on the kitchen table with a small printing contract, and grew from there. And you did so not because it was a big profit-making business, but you did so because you had a passion for journalism and a passion for serving your community. And I just want to say that I think ethnic media at its best does just that. It serves communities of particular language communities, linguistic communities, but also helps to translate, if you will, Canada to newcomers, and increasingly newcomers to the broader mainstream. And I think that's a tremendous important aspect of communication that your outlets are facilitating. And so on behalf of the Prime Minister, I just want to commend you for the good work that you're doing. Now, obviously, first of all, I should also thank our dad and our friends from the Vietnamese community for hosting us today. I think this is, you guys are really probably the most dominant in any particular community in your outlets, aren't you? Almost monopoly status here.
We work hard.
And I mean, that was just showing me all the publications he has: Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Houston, and of course affiliations with broadcast. This is an example of how successful this sector of Canadian media has been. I've got a lot of things that we could talk about. I'll leave it up to you in terms of questions. As you know, on December 1st, Thursday, we just launched our new parents and grandparents super visa. That will, we hope, make it easier for relatives to come to Canada for extended stays with their loved ones. We put in place our action plan to cut the immigration backlog for parents and grandparents and the wait times in half. We're making progress reducing all of these other backlogs that we inherited, developing a more flexible, faster-moving immigration system. And the objective is this: to end up with an immigration system that is nimble, fast, flexible, and which gets better results for newcomers. When I became minister, what really disturbed me, well, two main things. One, for 25 years we were seeing a decline in the economic outcomes for immigrants, lower incomes and lower levels of employment. And that's not tolerable. We don't want to invite people to Canada to be unemployed or underemployed. People come here, we can talk about our fabulous, democratic rights and privileges and so forth. At the end of the day, people come here because they want economic opportunity, a better standard of living for their children. And we owe it to do everything we can to firstly select people who have the skills to build Canada, and secondly, make sure they do everything we can to see that they succeed when they get here. And I'm glad to tell you, this is not a well-reported story yet, but I'm glad to tell you that maybe I'll come back and give a major speech on this at some point in the next few months. But we've seen the recent data which shows that over the past 3 years, average incomes and employment for immigrants is starting to go back up again. And so we're regaining lost ground in terms of the average status of newcomers to Canada. One of the reasons for that is we have a better geographic distribution of immigrants across the country now, thanks partly to our expansion of the provincial nominee programs. We see the number of immigrants going to the west, to the prairies, triple, increase substantially in Atlantic Canada. That has meant fewer newcomers settling in Ontario, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, I think it's good people are going to where there are great economic opportunities, and they're getting jobs. We're also putting people with arranged job offers to the front of the immigration queue. Instead of waiting in the back of a 7-year-long queue, they're now getting processed in about 10 months' time in the fast track on the federal skilled worker program. We brought in the Canadian Experience class, which is allowing foreign students who've done 2 years of studies in high skilled temporary foreign workers to get permanent residency on a fast track basis. And they have Canadian experience, Canadian degree, and have perfected their English language skills, so they are set for success. These are some of the reasons we see improvements in the outcome. The second big problem I saw when I came into this job was these huge backlogs. In 2006, 850,000 people waiting on average for 7 years. And we've been tackling this problem. We are now finally turning the corner. And within about 4 years, my plan, our hope is that we will be at a point where we have a working inventory in immigration, so that when an application is received in, say, 2015 or 2016, they'll be getting an answer and being admitted to Canada if they're qualified the same year. So a more flexible, a faster system that also selects people with the best skills that are most relevant to the Canadian labour market so that they will succeed. I think we're getting there. A lot more work to do, and I'm happy to take questions on all of this.